right, here's another tutorial with our fickle friend SketchUp. Again, if you want the extended large tool set and this little views tab here, you're just going to come to your view tab and open up your toolbars and set it to the large tool set and views. And then another thing that I like to do for the settings is to place my camera into parallel projection instead of perspective. None of these steps are necessary, it's just things that I like. Our first step is going to be to import our drawing. So I'm going to go File, Import, and then open up my house layout, and it'll bring it in. Now, if the tracing around the walls is giving you lots of headache and annoyance, another way you can approach it is to break each wall down individually and trace it using like the rectangle tool. So for example, I can start with rectangle and I can start in this endpoint and I'm just going to zoom to make sure I've got it. And then I'm going to pan over. So I'm going to hold the scroll wheel and the shift key and I'm going to pan over to that corner. And then I'm just going to push pull each wall individually. So I can do push pull of this wall up 8 feet. So I'm typing in 8 and then the foot mark, which is going to feed into that bottom right corner, but I can't move my cursor over there to show you it because otherwise it'll go away. And then I'll just hit enter. And I'm just going to break each wall down individually. So if your walls are really giving you lots of trouble, this is another way to approach it. And so again, I'm just going to start then at that point, making sure that in this case I'm getting this blue rectangle because that means I'm flat on this face. Click to make the rectangle, press pull, bring this one up, and then I can just click on this face to bring it up even. So this is another way you can approach the walls if they are giving you a big headache, but please make sure that you are getting that blue rectangle because otherwise your walls aren't lying flat like you want them to. Press pull, bring this up, and let me pan over and I'll click. And I'll just approach each one individually, rectangle, one corner, to this one here, which I'm going to have to hover over that point just to be able to show where it would connect to there. So if I approach each one individually, it'll help a little bit. Starting in one corner, down to the next. And I'll just zoom in to make sure I'm getting into the right spot. SketchUp can be very finicky, so doing everything from one spot to another is kind of the best bet of just taking it step by step, slowly, and orbiting yourself around. Sometimes a little awkwardly, but it all works out in the end. From this corner to this one, which it looks like it filled in this space, which may be fine, may not be, we'll see. Because sometimes it filling in spaces can be a big headache. It shouldn't be because of the fact that those are there. That's why it filled in. But you always want to be just a little wary when that starts happening. From that corner, and again, I want to make sure that I'm like getting this blue rectangle so I know that I'm flat. And then press pull up. That wall might give me some issues later just because technically this wall, what it's showing me is that it's inverted. We'll see though. I'm going to play it as it lays and hopefully it won't. And then this one. So I'm just going to orbit myself around to get to a good spot. Click to start it. Orbit around. Click on that intersection point. Up to meet. rectangle, starting in that corner, over to that corner, press pull up to meet. So this is, like I said, another way we can approach these walls if they're giving you lots of trouble. It might be taking a little bit more time, but ultimately, if everything's been giving you a lot of issues, taking that extra time might be your better option. And if I hover over points without clicking on them, it can kind of show me where they would potentially meet. But sometimes it gets a little annoyingly skewed. I'm going to try to force it to go where I want. Let me go into the line tool and just bring this line out on this axis to meet this edge and see if that gives me a good point to grab onto. Click, click. Okay, this one isn't inverted. These outer ones we want to really make sure. These interior ones, the reason why I'm not too worried about them is because they're literally, nothing even goes on those. See how they're hollow on the bottom? That's what I mean by inverted. But I think we'll be okay with those ones. Her famous last words. And I'll do another wall. I'll do this one first. From that corner, making sure I'm getting it nice and flat, which I just realized I didn't even click on that corner. See, that's why it's important to zoom. So I just hit escape, clicked on the corner, pan my way over to here, clicking on that corner. Or let me actually undo. Let me do it right. I'll add in a pencil mark from the edge of the wall over here. Rectangle. This corner to that one. Click to bring it up. Then I'll do this one. This corner, making sure I'm getting that blue rectangle to that corner. Bring it up. And so each of these walls are going to act as an individual like piece in here, but that's okay for what we are aiming for with our final result. This front corner to orbit around and pan myself over to that corner. Zoom out, push pull, click on it, bring it to face. And my last one, rectangle to that corner, to that one. Press pull, click on that one, bring it to face. So I've got all of my walls set up. These inverted ones, again, should be okay for what we're looking for our final result. Ultimately, would I want those? Heck no, but I'm going to keep them. First thing then I'm going to do then is come File, Save As, and I'm going to name it TEC1728 I believe this is 08. Last name all caps, first name lowercase. That way, in case this crashes or if things go really haywire and I need to get back to this step, I then don't have to undo a bunch. I can just come back directly to here. So the next thing that I'm going to do is lay out my guidelines for all my doors and windows. So I'm going to do that based off of down here using the tape measure tool. So your tape measure tool is right here. And when I start the tape measures to put in guides, let me just hold shift and the scroll wheel to pan. I want to always try to aim for a guide that is giving me that red square. So if I click on when I have a red square, then it's going to give me this infinite guideline. And that is really kind of what I'm looking for. I can type specific amounts I want guides out from, or I can also click on features that exist in my AutoCAD drawing. So again, I'm just going to click, this time I can click on this guide, move myself out, always wanting to make sure I get that axis line up, and then I can bring it to the point that I want it. And we always want to make sure it has that axis because that means these two are flat and parallel on the same plane. For like my sill plate and my header height, I'm going to, on the bottom edge, click when I get a red square, bring my cursor up, and this time I'm going to type in the length, 2, and then the foot mark, enter, and again from the bottom edge, which, whoops, see, I clicked on an endpoint, and that's why it's not giving me an infinite guideline. So I'll just hit escape, get that red box, click, up, 6'8" for my header. So this is going to be this just huge window bank that we have here. While I have this guide here, and it has these intersection points, I'm going to go into the rectangle tool, click on one corner to the next corner, push pull, click on this rectangle, and I'm going to bring it to where it says on face, and then click to have it cut a hole. If I undo that, another thing that I could do if I'm not getting that on face, I can click on it, and while I'm still in the press pull command, before I click on how far I want to bring it, I can hold my scroll wheel to orbit around and bring myself to the back face and then click on the face to make a hole. So I'll do a couple of more examples with the guidelines. So again, the guideline is the tape measure tool. We want to make sure that we are getting that red box, click, make sure you are on an axis. So in this case, I want the green one. And then I'm just going to click on the feature here that it's measuring to, make sure I get a red box, make sure I have an axis color. So it could be, depending on what you're making, it could be blue, it could be green, it could be red, and then click on the point. Axis, click on the point. So it wants to snap to a couple of places in here. So I want to just make sure that the point that I'm snapping to when I go to click is giving me this green highlighted axis to let me know that these are sitting on the same plane. Click to the point, scroll wheel to orbit around a little bit, click to my point, make sure I'm getting a red box, click to my point. We can also, if we want, bring guides over from one face onto another. So I actually can, on this bottom face, make sure I get a red box, and I can bring this guide up to where it would be intersecting this one. So rather than typing in 2 feet, I can just click, and now it's kind of like this guide has traveled over onto this wall. So again, that's make sure I'm getting that red box, click, and let me pan up, and then I could do it to where it intersects there. So now I have guides for these 3 windows, and I'm going to put in my rectangles from just intersection to intersection, intersection to inter, inter to inter, and then I'll press pull them until I get that blue diamond that says I'm on the face. So I'm just pulling them all out so that way I've got rough openings. If your guides become really cumbersome, I'll just hit space to get back into the select tool. But if your guides become really cumbersome, like there's just too many little dotted lines all around the page, what you can do is come up to the Edit tab and you can delete them. And then it will just get rid of every guideline in your drawing. So I'll do a few more just because it didn't take me as long as I figured it would, which is good news. For guides, just to give you some help. So I'm going to go into the tape measure tool. I could come off either edge. I'm just going to do this one, click on it with that red square, make sure I'm getting a highlighted axis, click. Click on it with a red square, make sure I'm getting a highlighted axis, click. Make sure I'm getting a red square, make sure I'm getting a green axis, click, red square to green axis, click. And then from the bottom edge, the bottom one's a little harder to get that red square just because of the way this original drawing was done with lots of tiny lines. But I'm just going to click on that bottom edge, bring it up. So this time I'm getting a blue axis, 2 foot, enter, and 6'8", enter. And then I will use my rectangle tool to draw in these rectangles. Again, I want to make sure that I'm getting them to be like a color to let me know that they're on a face, so otherwise I'm not just like making some random one out like this. And then I will press pull into face, press pull onto the face. Since things are going pretty well right now with all of these windows, another good idea would be to come up here, File, Save. So I don't have to do a save as. If I just do save, it just overrides what I already had. And just kind of, I don't know, I think a good idea since things could go awry in a moment. We're hoping they're not, but they could. So I'll do some more guides from this edge to here, red square, make sure I've got a highlighted axis to a point. So I've got to zoom in to make sure I'm getting that point. Sometimes it can be tricky. I won't deny it. SketchUp can be a finicky friend, but once you get the hang of it, it's a pretty useful software. And then for my headers and my sill, I'm just going to click from the bottom. Make sure I'm getting a blue axis this time, 2 feet. And then, whoops, let me hit escape. Click from the bottom up, 6'8", enter. And then draw in my rectangles for my rough openings. Press pull, bring it onto face, press pull, bring it onto face. And then I've got my door. I'm going to ignore this side window. I know I said that in class. I'm going to do it again just because it's going to be annoying. So I don't want to do it. But I'm going to do a tape measure from this edge over to where this door is, which since it's not sitting on this edge is going to be a little hard to get with a green axis. From that one over to where we would have an intersect, I need to make sure that that axis is staying green while I do the door. There we go. So sometimes getting intersections can be a little finicky. Click to this one, and then I'll pan over, click to this one, and then click to this one. So I want to always make sure that I'm able to see the guideline and I'm getting a highlighted axis. That's very important for the guides, so that way they're all sitting on the same flat face. And then I'll do from the bottom up 6'8", and then click again from the bottom, making sure I'm on edge so I've got that red square, up 2 feet. So I'll add in my rough openings. I'll do a rectangle for this door. A rectangle for this window, and then a rectangle for this window. And I'll use the push-pull tool to pull these through. So this one I almost didn't bring far enough, but that's why I wanted to make sure I got that blue diamond that said I was on the face. So I've got all of my exterior openings now laid out. So again, I'm going to come and delete my guides, and then I'm going to do another file save, because again, if I've spent all that time putting them in there and things have gone well so far, which actually, look, I found one that didn't go well. So this guy here looks like he did not go through, which we can try one thing that I'm always a little wary about, clicking on him and hitting the delete key on the keyboard, which seemed to work okay for me. I think it's just in this weird position of how close it is to this wall edge, but seemed to go okay. File, save. Okay, now I'll do some interior doors as well. So with our interior doors, we can approach them a couple of different ways, including with guides. With guides, they're going to be real tricky to do. So I can even bring it off this window and try to find where those endpoints are. So I found like here, that's where that one door edge was. Or I can orbit around, and once I get a good guide in there, I can place another one off of it. And then straight up from the edge, 6'8", enter. Draw my rectangle in, which my guide happens to be right on where that edge is. Bring it through. And again, I'm going to file save. I tend to save a lot when I'm working in SketchUp just because if something goes wonky, I don't want to have to lose everything. So I'll approach that again from this time from the bottom. I'll do a guide. I'll start it from this edge, but then while I'm still making the guide, I'm just going to hold my scroll wheel so I can orbit to place it, and once I have it placed, it's a lot easier to build off of while making sure you're keeping it off the on the axis. And then orbit my way up, 6'8", enter, draw my rectangle, and press pull it through. So for this door then, sitting here, it appears to me pretty much that all of these doors are just, yeah, they're all sitting right squared with the corner. So I can actually skip the first guide and just do a guide straight over to here, as long as I'm getting that green axis, which there it is. And then straight up, 6'8", enter, rectangle, and press pull. And then where's this one for the middle one? There it is. It's kind of awkward to find in my building. So I'll guide line out, making sure I'm getting a highlighted axis. And then from the bottom edge, guide line up, 6'8", enter, rectangle, and press pull through. And then my last door is sitting on this wall. Tape measure, guide line out to meet it. Make sure I'm getting a red one. I can even, again, I could type 6'8", or I could borrow where it intersects that one from a previous door I made. Rectangle, click, push pull, bring it through. So, did I just not do this one? Or did this one come a little wonky? So this one was fine, and then it became wonky. Ooh, interesting. So let's click on it and delete it and cross our fingers, and ooh, it didn't do anything bad. Okay, see, my drawings can go wonky too, all right? It is a sort of wonky software. So I've got all my rough openings, everything, aside from these little wonky walls, is looking pretty good. I know I wasn't planning on doing all the doors and windows, but it didn't take that long for me, so. And I know I'm going fast, but you can always pause me. And so again, I'm just going to save it, and then I'm going to delete all my guides. So my next step would be to paint my walls with the paint bucket. So again, that's up here. And since we still haven't made this into a group or a component, we can do all of the walls outside and inside individually. So that's just, you can pick your colors and pick your materials. So I can decide, you know, that I want it to be brick. I can pick the brick I want, and I can paint all of the outside of my building. I'm not going to sit here and click on every single wall because you're just going to go pick the outsides. And then I can also do the interior colors. If I wanted to pick the different paint colors, I can go and choose for each wall. And I can even do each room as different colors as I orbit around and fill everything in. So the paint bucket tool was something we went over on Monday, and it is a pretty straightforward tool out of all of them. Sorry. Once you have your entire house and everything, or apartment, decorated and painted the way you want, you can do different floors. You can choose different carpets, or there's, in the wood one too, there's some wooden floors. You design it however you so choose. Then you are going to, without her in here, so I'm just going to delete her. I'm going to highlight my whole thing, so I'm just going to click and drag my mouse to make a big box, right click, and I'm going to make it a group. That way, as I start to place different components and stuff in here for my furniture, I don't accidentally mess any of this part up. Because what would really suck is then after you finally get everything working nice and orderly, you place a component in and then you just wind up like erasing everything in existence. That would be really garbage, and you'd probably want to scream. So now I have it as a group, which means I can't edit this without double clicking on it. So any components I put in won't possibly mess up my walls and stuff. So to add in art components, you're going to go to the 3D warehouse, which you can get through right here, or File, 3D warehouse. You do need to sign in to access the 3D warehouse. You can use the sign in with Google feature and just sign in through your AppState email address. But in here, you are going to search for different components like doors, windows, and various pieces of furniture. And I know I showed this a little bit in class, but I'll show it again. So the first thing I'm going to do is just search for the thing I want. So this time I'll do a door. I did a window in class, but I'll do a door. And my suggestions for this is still going to be to try to pick ones that are a little bit more simplistic looking, because those tend to work better. And that sometimes when you load a piece in and it doesn't want to change, that means that the person who designed it made it into either a dynamic component or something just really complicated. And they probably did that because they don't want you to change it. And so you can either spend 20 minutes trying to get it to change and budge and it won't do anything, or you can say, all right, I don't think this one's going to work, and you can come back here and find a different door. Because in here, there are, if I go to models, there's over 1,000 different doors available in here. I can find a door that is going to fit what I want. So I'm going to just download this one. Why not? Click on load it into my model. Yes, sir. And then I'm just going to click someplace over here to load it. So I want this to act as my front door, but it's facing the wrong direction. So to change that, I'm going to use the rotate tool. So the rotate tool is right here. The first thing I want to do is pick an axis I want to rotate on. So if I want to spin it that it's now facing this way instead of this way, I want this blue one. If I hold it up against the door and I get the green one, this is going to rotate it. It's going to spin it around itself. So if I use this green one, it's going to spin it this way. I could use this red one. No, actually I couldn't. If I use this red one, if I click on it, it's going to spin it that way. So that's why with pretty much all of our components, I can almost guarantee you're just going to want the blue protractor. So once you go into the rotate tool, or excuse me, we'll start right from the beginning. I'll click on my object. I'll go into the rotate tool. Once I see the blue protractor, I'm going to click on it. Then it's going to ask me what angle do you want to start with. So I'm just going to start on the red axis and click. And then I'm going to move my cursor. So now I'm on the green axis and click. And now my door has been rotated 90 degrees. Now that it's facing the way I want, I'm going to use the move tool to grab it by a point that I know. And I'll do it from this corner. So I know I want this corner to sit nice and flush right there. So I grabbed it by the point that where I knew I wanted it to be and then put it on that point. So now it's moved into place, and let me hold shift and scroll wheel to pan. Now I'm going to scale it to size. So while I still have it selected, I'm going to use the scale tool here. And remember, we want to always go off the middle boxes. So in this case, the middle box is actually going to be hidden inside here. But I'm just going to drag it across this axis to fit onto that edge, and then drag on my blue axis for my vertical there. So now, and once I hit the space bar, I'm all done. I have scaled this door to fit inside this area. So I'll show that again with a window and how I would scale that. So I'll go back into the 3D warehouse. This time I'll search for a window, and I could spend a lot of time finding the exact window I want. I'm going to go with these. I think it'll look nice with my door, and it also looks simple enough that it's not going to mess up a whole lot with my model, and that it should be able to like scale and move pretty easily. But I'll download it. I'll click yes. It loads in, and I'm just going to click over here to place it. And see, this one component, it came preloaded with this dude here, and I don't want this dude. So what I'm going to do is hit the space bar and then just click somewhere off of it to deselect it. Double click it. So now I'm editing this component, and I can click on this dude and then hit the delete key on my keyboard. And now he's no longer a part of it, which, sorry, sir. So I'm going to now take this window, move it. Again, I'm going to pick an edge of it that I do know. So I'm going to click on that part, and then I'm going to move it to sit flush on this corner, if it'll let me. Why won't it let me? There we go. Come on. I saw it come up, and then it went away. There we go. It keeps coming and going. Interesting. And it could be because of how I have this grouped. It doesn't want to snap. There we go. But I got it too. So I just had to kind of sit and play around to get it to snap. And now I'm going to scale it. So I'm going to go into the scale tool. And I'm going to click on this middle point to stretch it along. And in some cases, it might get distorted based on how they originally modeled it, but I had to even do this one in a couple of stretches to get it to really fit. And then I can even just, while I'm holding and dragging, I can say I want it to go right to that point. And then I'll take this middle vertical one and say I want it to go to that point. And so now I have one long window bank here for this, and I can hit the space bar or hit the select tool to get out of the edit. Again, to show a rotate and scale, is I'll come back in here. This time I'll download the exact same window if I can find it. I'll also show you too how to, actually I'll use this one just so I can show you how to deal with this when it has like lots of different windows in. So I'm going to download this in. And this is just a collection of loads of windows. So maybe like this is the one I want to use because it would work nice here to have this with all of these like mullions in it. But like this is just all a bunch of different windows and they don't operate separately. So what I'm going to have to do is double click on it, then go take the windows I don't want and just hit delete on my keyboard. I don't want that one. I don't want that one. Or that one. I'm going to just stick with that one. So I'm going to highlight all these and get rid of it. So now I'm just stuck with just this one. Double click outside. If I want to rotate it, which it looks like I might have one something stuck over here, since it's claiming the component still has more. I'm not going to worry though. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to rotate, get that blue one, click, line it up with an axis, click, rotate it, and if I get that green one now, I know it's 90 degrees, click, space bar to get out of the scale tool, and then move, grab a point of it that you know where you want that to be, and then put that point where you know you want it to sit. So again, I know I want this to sit on that corner, which might be a couple of tries for me to get it to sit there. I got it to sit there, and that I can easily kind of squish it up here. So sometimes you do have to move it, and it takes a series of moves to kind of get it into the spot you want. And then to scale it to size, I'm going to come to the scale tool. This one actually, see here, because of the way this component box works, we might not want to use this one because now my scale thing is over here. Yeah, so you know what? This window, while it was promising, it's actually going to be really annoying. So rather than try to sit and figure it out, I'm just going to say, "Aw, shucks," and get rid of it and come back in here and just find a different window. There's over 1,000 free windows available. You can find one that won't give you a headache. And so I'll use this one. I'll download it. Yes. I'll place it. Then I'm going to first rotate it. So rotate to start the tool. When you get your blue protractor, click it. Start it on one axis. Click. Rotate it around. Click. And then I can use move. So I'll come back here. Click. Click. Series of clicks. And then scale. And at first, I'll actually do it based on just a uniform. So I'm just going to grow it up to that corner. So rather than trying to pull it this way and that way, I just made it so that it just got all the way bigger. And now it's fitting in here. I can even make it a little bit wider too. And so I could bring it to this face. So if I click and hold Let me undo. If I click and hold this axis, I can then say, and bring it to that one. So now I've got my window in there. And the same thing with any furniture that I'm going to put in. So kitchen appliances, furniture, bathroom stuff. I'll just go to my 3D warehouse. I'll look for a toilet. I spelled toilet wrong, didn't I? Yeah. T-O-I. And I'll find a toilet that I want, load it in, and then it might want to weirdly sink into the floor. So like I'm just going to make this into a little bathroom. And then afterwards, I can grab it by like a bottom corner and put that then onto this face. So I can kind of more work it into, well, whoops, looks like I put it on top of that face. So again, I'm just going to orbit around and try to make sure that I'm getting it on. This is saying it's going to be on that edge. So that way, there we go. Now my toilet's sitting actually in here. And if I needed to rotate it again, rotate, click, get your axis. Where do you want to rotate it? So you don't have to also line your axes up. You can put things on angles. If you click again, you can then put all your furniture and stuff on angles. And so that is how you would put in all of your different components, your doors, your windows, your furniture. As you're putting all your stuff in, make sure you are saving your work as you go. If at any point walls or lines or features are getting in the way, you can use the section tool located right here to create a section plane, and I could bump it against this wall and it's going to cut this wall out, and I can then also move this section plane, which oops, click on it, then go into the move tool, and I can click and drag this along. So if I needed to kind of cut parts out to get to different features or different parts of my building or house, I can use section planes to easily do that. And you can also do them from above too, to like cut to different floors of like a several story building. Now I know that was really fast, but I figured you could pause and rewatch and do anything that you might need. And I hope this helps a lot. And I will see you guys on Monday.